right, I have a lot to talk about, so I'm going to get going. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. I'm Michael Hoffman, co-founder of Object Theory. One of the interesting things is that I was actually on the HoloLens team back in the day, about 4 years ago. And so I got some early exposure to use cases for mixed reality. I was involved in the NASA mission planning, the Trimble Keystone architecture scenario, Autodesk Fusion 360, the cool motorcycle scenario where the motorcycles communicating with Maya for design. So Object Theory, I found it after being on that team to basically continue that goodness of building apps for mainly Fortune 1000 companies. We actually have a number of smaller clients, but a lot of the work we're doing is Fortune 1000 work. One of the things that I was trying to figure out, like, what can I offer you that maybe I have some unique insights on? And one of the things that we do, of course, is talk to a lot of customers. At this point, I think I can safely say that between me and my partner Raven, we've talked to at least 1,000 people trying to figure out what to build for this. I mean, easily, between all the trade shows we've been to, we're on the phone all the time, we visit clients, clients visit us. Then I realized we've actually delivered 30 projects already as a company. I mean, I was like, it blew my mind. I actually tried to go through and listen. I was like, oh. And then I realized, wow, we've actually delivered 10 of the use cases that I'm about to talk to you about. But the thing that really matters is, why? Why mixed reality? I mean, we're mainly a HoloLens shop, so you're going to hear me use the word mixed reality a lot. I'm starting to adopt XR. We actually do iPad companion apps. We're doing a project right now that delivers to every platform you can imagine, Oculus Vive. So we're not just HoloLens, we're kind of HoloLens Plus. But bear with me, I'm mainly going to talk about HoloLens and mixed reality where you can actually see through, because it has some additional challenges because it's a battery-powered device and it has a limited GPU. But those are some of the challenges that I'm going to talk about. What I want to talk about is why mixed reality. So this is a list. I'm not going to actually talk to these slides. This is just extra information, so there's a good takeaway. If anybody of you wants my slides, please just email me, michael@objecttheory.com. Very happy to share these slides with you. But I'm not going to actually say what's on the slides. The thing I want to point out here is that even though all of those are true, I think the top, the top three probably, actually the top four, resonate as the reason why mixed reality is so important. And I want to tell you a tiny little story. Very early in our company, a client gave us a LiDAR scanner in their office. It was just a silly little, they went around the office with a LiDAR scanner. And if you don't know what LiDAR is, it's a billion, well, in this case, it was about 1 billion points of light. And the points are the right color, but that's all there are. They're points of light. And we put it on the screen at first, look around, okay. There's cubicles, yeah, there's monitors, oh, there's a poster on the wall. Okay, there's a credenza with a printer on it. In 2D on 3D, we do that all the time, right? Anytime you're looking at a 3D model, you put it on the screen and you rotate it. Most people call it 2.5D. So I thought I was seeing everything, right? I put it that we didn't even have a HoloLens yet. I put it on Oculus. It was mind-boggling. Like, there's a lightsaber, a Lego mug, staplers, little paper clips. Like, your brain was seeing so much more. And what it made me realize, we are stereoscopic human beings. Our brains are wired to understand our world stereoscopically. If you close one eye, it's harder to drive. Like, it's fundamentally going to change everything because stereoscopic vision is so important. Hands-free obviously is important, but you could argue there are other ways of getting hands-free. Shared 3D context is good, but you can certainly share 3D context in other ways. But the interesting thing about shared 3D context in 3D is you have a lot more spatial information about what you're seeing. So I'm going to cover some of these sort of ad hoc throughout the presentation, but I at least wanted to point out some of those as being the foundational reasons why people are using mixed reality. So one of the things that I've been thinking about over the past 3 years is, well, what are all the use cases? And I keep looking for new ones. So please, if anybody in this audience knows of any use case that's not up here, I really, genuinely, honestly want to hear about it, because I've been looking for years and they always seem to fall in these buckets. One of the other things that's interesting is, I was thinking, like, is soft skills training, hard skills training, expert coaching and education? Well, those are all kind of education, those are all teaching. Why do I think of those as being different? And this is where I'm starting to see nuances in the difference, and I'll explain right now why I think they're different. So soft skills training is about human interaction, psychology, like I need to learn how to be a better salesperson or diffuse a situation in a hostage crisis situation. All of those are like psychological soft skills training. Hard skills training, physical motion, how do you do something with the physical world? Those are different kinds of skills than psychological skills. Education is more about concepts, like how do I learn a new concept? It's understanding conceptually how the world works. And then expert coaching is interesting. It's like, is that really different? And then what I realized there is that expert coaching is a little more about giving tools to the actual teacher, less about the tools for the student. And so I put those up there as differentiators between them. So I'm going to move on quickly because I have 16 of these. So let's start with remote collaboration. This by far is the strongest signal that we've seen out there in the market. Our very first client, CDM Smith, we did a broad sweep of their multi-billion-dollar company, identified 22 use cases that intersected with mixed reality, prioritized them, came up with 3 top recommendations, and proceeded to build 2 POCs. And the first POC we built was remote collaboration. The other was IoT, seeing invisible data, and annotated environment, and I'll talk about those more later. So remote collaboration, there's so many scenarios. The interesting thing about remote collaboration is I realized that a lot of these use cases work well in combination. Remote collaboration plus product design, remote collaboration plus teaching. Remote collaboration seems to be the strongest one as far as it combining with other use cases to create even more value. Like even individually, I can do a product design right next to my CAD and have it be a good individual solution. But now if I can actually collaborate on that design with somebody in Paris, it's even more powerful. So one of the other interesting things about this is that there's a lot of challenges around how you solve the problems of being in the same space and also some people being in different spaces. The main challenge right now, go here, there's a lot of, didn't necessarily want you to read that while I was talking, but feel free to. So some of the potential challenges, the main challenges are, we've talked about people who are in environments where they have bad Wi-Fi, and if you wanted that spatial presence of audio chat, that's really hard to achieve. The main thing that we're challenging across a lot of these, and there'll be a theme that you'll see, is geometry complexity. Everybody wants to pull in their 3 million triangle model directly into HoloLens. And so we're looking at solutions like Simplegon to help solve some of that. We use 3ds Max a lot to optimize. We do a lot of hand optimization for anything you can curate. The bigger challenge is when you can't curate it, when you want it to come straight out of your live workflow. That's where some of these challenges occur. But that's all getting better. Everything's getting easier and easier. Remote collaboration, maybe you want to remote collaborate where at least one of your participants is outdoors. How do you solve for that? And then we're seeing a lot of defense interest. Security and Wi-Fi security is apparently a big no-no. And so these are all solvable, and they're all being solved, and we're certainly, as a company, solving a lot of them. All right, so product design. Touched on that a little bit earlier. So, and then on remote collaboration, we've actually delivered that to a major motor company, CDM Smith. We've put it in a few storytelling pieces. So product design. I mean, most of the things that we're designing in the world are 3D in nature, right? And there's a reason why we do things like build clay models of cars, do 3D prints. We need a stereoscopic vision, but we also want to be able to feel it. So there's all these challenges around how do you accomplish that? Well, obviously HoloLens by itself can't help with a feeling. One of the clients, we did a product packaging solution for a major consumer products company where we let them do the 3D print so that you can feel the 3D print. It's the shape of the product they're designing. But then we put targets on it, and you literally can see different treatments with blue, red, green, transparent, pearl, metal, and put different labels on it. The labels for different regions, and just very efficiently, you're holding it in your hand, and the holograms are following that 3D print, so you're feeling it, you're seeing all the treatments. It was, when we had that working, we were just all, I get chills just thinking about it. We had, it was just amazing to see that actually working. All right. Oops, I did it again. I'm not letting you read this stuff. All right. One of the ones that I worked on at Microsoft was this Fusion 360 Freeform project, and that was an awesome project to prove out that you can do collaboration between different design disciplines. All right, and again, feel free to reach out, and I'll send you all these slides with all this content. All right, so annotated environment. We also built a IoT prototype here, but it's not just IoT, it's IoT plus all the data you know about environment. It could be anything, like the original CAD drawings, the as-built drawings, and then the as-designed drawings. I mean, you name it. But the other thing is, in the future, we're gonna live in a world where there's information in the room about your thermostat that's coming from IoT. There's information coming from your design system that's about what you're designing. You could have, we're gonna be living in a world where everything around us has information, and something like mixed reality, especially in the near future when it's actually wearable all day long, we will have a plethora of information in our environment that's geospatially located where you can gain a lot of information from it. So here again, some of the challenges are, a lot of these things, so because we're talking about enterprise, we're talking often about things that people want to do at giant construction sites or where there's an outdoor component and there's an indoor component. The other thing is that devices like the HoloLens right now are designed for relatively small spaces. So you go out into a giant space and it's really hard for you to basically all have something like HoloLens, know all the time where you're at. But there are lots of tricks that we use. We use fiduciary markers or ID tags that let you know, or QR codes that just let you know where you are in space. And then from that point, we can do a lot of tricks to get all that data into that space relevant to where you are. So I am going to run out of time probably, but I'm going to talk fast. So one of the coolest things that we did with the IoT is, yep, I actually got a timer, thank you. One of the things, so for CDM Smith, we actually did a 3-hour-long tour of a 90-acre water treatment facility. It was the most mind-blowing thing. 90 acres, you think there'd be people everywhere. There was no people. You walk down these massive kilometer-long hallways, all you hear, there's nothing to see. There's water in pipes. It's all hissing in pipes, and there's nothing to see. Then you go into this one place, that 98-acre facility. There's like 20 monitors, 20 giant monitors with all kinds of cryptic symbols and lists, and there's like 4 technicians in there monitoring everything. That is literally the only place in the entire facility where you know what's going on. So a technician going out in that 90 acres is on a walkie-talkie, has their tablet, is looking through databases, and you can imagine how hard that is to actually know what's happening. Imagine with HoloLens, the data exists. They collect literally terabytes of data, and they readily admit we don't do anything with it except the real-time data in that one room. Nothing else. We don't do predictive maintenance. We don't, like predictive maintenance is the obvious one, right? Use that data to kind of predict when something's going to fail. So there's all this opportunity to actually take that a step further and go out there and say, okay, they measure pH, temperature, pressure, like the number of things, salinity is all being measured. They have sensors everywhere. Imagine going out there and you see, oh, high pressure this side, low pressure this side. Maybe there's something wrong with that valve. And so you can imagine that you can go out there and have better insights if you can actually see it in the very situation where it's happening. Especially if you're a process engineer and you understand process, you're going to see those things. Premium selling. We do a lot of premium selling. One of our key clients is Stryker. If you've seen the Stryker HoloLens partner video, we built that. One of the things that they do is sell to surgeons. So here's another one where it's really hard to show a surgeon what their new operating room is going to look like. They will literally ship an entire operating room to a warehouse near a large hospital like Mayo Clinic, set it up in a warehouse, and they'll march the surgeons through to see what their future operating room will look like. Can you imagine how expensive that is? And of course, every time you ship it, something's going to get chipped or scratched or broken. And they do this all the time to sell. Now they use HoloLens. We tie directly into their existing custom CAD system where they design the operating room, and we let you visualize it. You can even let the surgeon move the equipment around. Maybe if the table's just a little bit of a different angle, it's more efficient to move around in the operating room, and they can actually help participate in the design process. And all this is a sales tool. Obviously there's a space planning part of it, which is, this will be somewhat repeated in space planning because there is the space planning part of it. But this is really all just to help sell their technology. But it's to make so much sense that this helps create a better product, which makes it better for everybody. Oops, doing it again. So the only thing about premium selling that is a challenge right now is that right now mixed reality is kind of not a good out-of-box experience because you got to adjust this heavy thing in your face. You've never had your eyes measured before. And so there's this unfortunate 5 to 15-minute gap. Now, thankfully, it's so amazing. Most people are like, who cares? This is like the most amazing thing that's ever happened. But if you're out there selling to a surgeon, they don't care. They're just like, okay, what am I supposed to be looking at here? Even they got excited. We did some for Zimmer Biomet, we showed a trade show, and they warned me that these surgeons are going to come in there and just be completely stone-faced. What am I supposed to do? And you would see them they would just oh my God, what? And they just started getting excited. And it was just so wild to have been warned that wouldn't happen or warned what their personality types were. And they would just melt. One of them, at least one or two said, this is going to completely change my world. And then when you see that, you just realize that all of this is going to change our world. Soft skills training. So we built a demo for a company called BrainShark, which actually makes coaching tools. And those coaching tools let you give a sales pitch or maybe do a presentation like I'm doing. And Cognitive Services is monitoring you in various ways, including with the HoloLens on, of course, it knows where you're standing. They can listen to your audio, and they can know what your movements are. And it will use all that to, drive the avatars so that they get bored or they sneeze or they do various things to distract you. And it can also know whether you hit key points because it can basically translate all your voice into text and look for the keywords you're supposed to cover in your pitch. So it's a really good sales tool or a way to use HoloLens to automate the process, or at least the early training of a soft skill. Oh, there we go again. This is one where I actually thought about it. I couldn't think of any particular significant challenge for this one, which I thought was actually quite interesting. If I thought harder, maybe I'd find small ones, but I really wasn't seeing much. So on all these, again, you'll see a common theme, if I let you actually read these slides. You'll see a common theme of stereoscopic vision, and there's some alignment with physical world is really important. There's only certain use cases where it's important, and there's some where it's really important. And I'll talk about that one in the next one. So hard skills training. This time I'll advance fast for you so you can read. So for one of our medical clients, we actually did this really cool thing. They 3D printed a spine, and they put the spine in a box with gel that's supposed to simulate skin, and it helps guide you in the exact right spot and the exact right angle to do an interventional spinal, IVS spinal tap. Yeah, I'm not a doctor. And it was just like so cool that we're teaching you, and it had to be really precise, like down to the millimeter or two, and we were measuring, like, can we actually achieve that? And it's actually quite possible to achieve 1 to 2 millimeter alignment. The biggest thing with all training scenarios is it's more about content than anything else, and creating all that content, and obviously sometimes you run into geometry challenges, but mainly there's a lot of content you have to develop, and it's not really a challenge except that it takes a lot of time and a lot of money. Space planning. So then this is another nod to Stryker because they do use it for the space planning part of it during the sales cycle. One of the interesting things about space planning, this is the only use case where I think FOV actually really is a little bit hard because it's more or less an immersive. This is one of the very few where it's actually truly an immersive solution. And what I will tell you about FOV, yes, more FOV is better, but basically I have found, and I wear glasses that happen to be almost identical FOV to a HoloLens. It just was completely, I guess, coincidence. But I realized I chose, for style reasons, to give up this much of what I see clearly. And that's really a lot like what HoloLens is. And so for something like space planning, that is the one place where I think that is currently still a challenge, but especially if it's space planning where you're bringing a lot of people in that are not familiar with HoloLens. If you are, obviously it still takes away the ability to have more context. We use a lot of tools to basically bring in the context that you can't get from not seeing as much. So even there, I would say that it's only a small challenge. All right, situation planning. I didn't even think that we had done something in this area, but we actually did. And I mean, this is a real example of Saab Defense built a true military situation planning, which is what most people think of. But we actually built for a utilities company in Canada called Surveillant. We actually built a scenario planning for utilities going out. Like, it's a city map. It has all their little stations. It has all the feeds between the stations. We brought in, well, this is faked. It was a story time piece. But it was showing the promise, bringing in true radar weather data that shows what the weather patterns are and which units have gone out. They have software systems to manage all this. You tap on one of the power stations and it brings up a whole information panel from their databases. And it's a situation planning scenario for utilities. Real use case of situation planning. Experiencing invisible data. This one I love just because it's kind of like having a sixth sense. So one example was PACCAR, which is showing the effectively a simulated wind tunnel. The other kind of use cases, of course, are what I described in the water treatment plant, where you can see all of the information. I'm going to move fast because I got a lot more, but those are, I'm talking more about those because we've actually built something for every single thing that I've shown you so far. We've actually built something for a real paying client. We're starting now to get into ones where we haven't, so I'll move a little bit faster because I'm almost out of time. Medical imaging, human bodies are 3D. It's very obvious that there's a lot of opportunity to help doctors and surgeons go from 2D to 3D. There's the pre-op planning, there's the in-operative opportunities, and then there's just the basically consultative opportunity with clients. Some of the biggest challenges here are if you're actually going to use it in the operating room. Alignment is important. There's regulatory requirements for anything that ever touches the body. There's sterile field, and there's weight and comfort for the surgeon. Remote expert. Microsoft is showing right here their new remote assist. You should go check it out. This is a very compelling case. Everybody wants to have experts in a central location that can solve multiple problems in the field. Infinite screen, financial, mainly for the financial industry. Am I going to make it? Education. I've touched a lot on education. This is more about learning concepts. And expert coaching, more about gathering data for the coach. And again, I will gladly share these slides. Automated guidance is like museums and out and about in the real world. Outdoor use cases, of course, are a challenge if it's outdoors. Other than that, large spaces like museums, you might need to use ID targets. Art and creativity, this is like a wide open field of creativity. I am out of time, but I think I made it. Entertainment, if you look for the NFL HoloLens demo, we don't do entertainment, so it's not something we're doing, but there's tons and tons of opportunity in this space as soon as HoloLens is out there. This is the many, many ways in which object theory is addressing a lot of the challenges that are out there. We as a company, that's a big part of what we offer. And I am out of time. Thank you very much. One final thought there. Thank you very much. I'm Michael Hoffman. Please feel free to follow up.